This table's for family. Mom, find a spot outside. The words still ring in my ears, even now. They were simple words, tossed out like scraps, but they cut me deeper than any knife ever could. They weren't just words, they were a verdict, a declaration that I, the woman who had given everything, no longer belonged at the table of my own blood. That night was supposed to be a celebration, a moment of pride. My son Carter had achieved a big promotion, and like any mother, I wanted to be there, smiling, cheering, honoring him with a gift that carried our history. I held that gift bag close, a framed photograph of him at 5 years old. His small nose covered in frosting, his arms looped around my neck, a memory of a time when love was simple, pure, and unconditional. But Carter's voice shattered that illusion. I looked at the table, 12 chairs stretched like a grand stage, every one taken. Even the last chair was blocked by a handbag. No one moved it. No one offered me a place. It was clear, I wasn't invited to celebrate. I was invited to pay dot. And in that moment, I learned a truth I had avoided for too long. Family isn't blood. Family is who sees you. And I was done being invisible. I didn't argue. I had spent my life avoiding arguments. I carried burdens quietly, sacrificed silently, hoping my silence would be enough to earn respect. But silence only made me fade into the background of Carter's new world. So I dragged a chair from a nearby empty table and placed it just outside their circle, close enough to hear their champagne toasts, far enough to feel the chill of being unwelcome. The waiter glanced at me, confused, then returned with a cup of black coffee. No plate, no menu, just coffee. I accepted it with a nod, my hands steady, my lap heavy with the gift bag that I wasn't sure I wanted to give anymore. Inside was more than a picture. There was a card, written in my hand. The same handwriting I had used for the little notes I used to tuck into Carter's lunchbox. Notes that said, "Have a good day," or "I love you." Tonight, I had written words of pride and encouragement. I thought he would smile, maybe even hug me. But as I listened to his laughter, mixing with the sound of clinking glasses, I realized he would never even notice. The table roared with energy. Wagyu beef platters, wine I couldn't pronounce, jokes about bonuses, spa weeks, and vacations. Rachel's laugh was too loud, too sharp, filling the space like nails against glass. Someone called Carter the Golden One. Everyone cheered, no one looked my way. My coffee cooled untouched, steam curled upward like a question that had no answer. I had skipped lunch earlier, thinking I'd share this meal. I had imagined being seated beside my son, joining in the celebration, finally feeling like my years of sacrifice had meaning. But there was no plate for me, no seat, no acknowledgement. I was there not as family, but as a witness. And as I sat there, memories came rushing back. I remembered Carter as a boy, the chipped tooth, from biting into a frozen pancake. The panic I felt when I saw the dentist bill I couldn't afford. No insurance. 3 jobs post office by day, cleaning offices by night, stocking shelves on weekends, 6 months to pay it off. I remembered selling my wedding ring to pay for his braces, the long nights of counting every penny, skipping meals, stretching groceries, so Carter would never feel the weight of poverty. 2 states. For landlords, years of sacrifice, years of struggle, years of building him up with nothing but grit and willpower. And now, here he was, a grown man with a gold tie clip shining under the restaurant's lights, his voice loud, filled with stock options and deals, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and Rachel, the wife who never liked me. He didn't look at me, not once. He knew I was there. He just didn't care. I felt the gift bag grow heavier, as if it carried every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear I had shed to make his success possible. And then came the moment that shifted everything. The plates were cleared, the wine glasses emptied. Rachel lifted her manicured hand, her smile dripping with entitlement. "She's got it," she said, motioning to me. The waiter hesitated, then placed the black folder in front of me, $3,498.72. The number stared back at me like a cruel dare. Carter didn't even look. Rachel continued talking about their upcoming vacation. Someone murmured, "Thanks," without even glancing in my direction. They assumed, because that's what I always did. I always paid tuition gaps, car repairs, rent. When his roommate bailed, I had cashed out half my retirement for his first apartment lease, sold my second car, skipped buying fruit just to cover his expenses. I gave without keeping track. I gave because I was a mother, but they didn't see a mother, they saw a wallet. Rachel leaned back in her chair, her voice syrupy. "It's nothing for you, right? Your retirement, the house sale." Carter scrolled through his phone, nodding like this was perfectly natural. I stirred my coffee slowly, the spoon clinking against the porcelain. Years of night shifts had taught me patience, but tonight, I felt something shift inside me. I closed the folder, deliberately, slowly, and slid it across the table. Toward Carter. You said I'm not family. I said, my voice steady, calm, so family should pay. The table froze. Forks hung in midair. Rachel's napkin slipped from her fingers. We don't have that kind of money, Rachel said sharply. Carter leaned forward, his voice low and warning. Mom, don't make a scene. I smiled faintly. I'm not making a scene. I'm following your rules. His jaw tightened. He flinched, just slightly. For the first time that night, I saw a flicker of the boy I had raised, buried under layers of entitlement. You think I can cover a $3,000 dinner? He hissed. No, I answered quietly. You just assumed I would. That's the difference. The silence stretched. Rachel looked around desperately for support. No one moved. The waiter hovered, awkward and invisible. I leaned back, calm, hands folded in my lap. I had carried their weight for too long. Tonight I was putting it down. Carter muttered, You always make it about you. A spark ignited in me. No, Carter, you made it about me. When you used me as your bank and called it love. And that was the truth. That night was only the beginning. What happened after changed everything. Not just between me and Carter, but within me. I had a choice to make. Either continue being invisible, or finally take back my life. And I chose myself. But what came next? Carter wasn't prepared for it. Rachel wasn't prepared for it. And maybe, deep down, even I wasn't prepared for how far I was willing to go. They thought the night ended when I walked out of that restaurant. They thought I would return home, stew in silence, and eventually give in, as I had done for years. They thought I would call the restaurant, pay the bill, apologize for making a scene, and restore the order they had built where I was the silent provider. But they were wrong. That dinner wasn't an ending. It was the start of a new chapter, one where I finally stopped existing for them and started living for myself. Remember. Stepping outside into the night air after leaving the restaurant, the door shut behind me, muffling the laughter and voices I had endured for hours. The cold air touched my face, and for the first time in years, I felt steady. The weight of that gift bag no longer pressed on me. The expectation, the guilt, the endless giving, they stayed behind at that table. I walked to my car, slid into the driver's seat, and just sat there. My phone buzzed with missed calls and texts. Carter's name, Rachel's name, unknown numbers. Each one a demand, disguised as concern. I didn't answer. As I drove home, I thought about how often I had allowed myself to be used. The countless times, Carter said. It's just this once. The countless times, Rachel smiled sweetly while implying I owed them. Every time I said yes, believing love was measured by sacrifice, but I wasn't their savior anymore. Months earlier, my life had quietly shifted. My sister, Margaret, had passed away, leaving me a modest inheritance. It wasn't millions, but it was enough to change everything, enough to buy me freedom. I hadn't told anyone, not Carter, not Rachel, not even my closest friends. I drove south one afternoon and found a small adobe cottage near a river. The walls were warm in color, the shutters a faded green. The front porch caught the sun in a way that made it glow. When I stepped inside, I knew it was mine. I signed the papers, paid in full, and for the first time in decades, I owned something no one could take from me. I planted rosemary in clay pots, hung wind chimes by the window, painted the shutters fresh. Each act felt like reclaiming pieces of myself I had lost. And with each step, I realized something. Love is not proven through endless giving. Love is also knowing when to stop. A week before the restaurant dinner, I sat in my lawyer's office, papers spread across the desk. Carter and Rachel's names were there, listed as beneficiaries of my estate. For years, I had told myself it was right, that even if they didn't appreciate me, I would still ensure their future. But as I sat there, I thought of that cottage. I thought of other mothers like me, women who had sacrificed everything and were left invisible. And I made a decision. Remove their names, I told the lawyer. He raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? Yes, I said. My voice was steady. In their place, I listed scholarships for single mothers, a grant for women starting over after divorce, a literacy program for children in low-income neighborhoods. As I signed the papers, my hand didn't shake. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Back at the restaurant, Carter had looked at me like I had betrayed him, but he never saw how much I had already betrayed myself by living for him. After that night, the calls continued. Messages poured in. Mom, we're sorry. Please, just cover it this once. We'll pay you back. Promise. Promise. That word again. Empty, hollow, used like a bandage to cover every cut they had ever inflicted. I turned off the phone. Now I kept it off. Days passed. I stayed at the cottage, tending to my garden, walking by the river, listening to the chimes in the evening breeze. The silence wasn't lonely, it was healing. For once, I wasn't rushing to solve someone else's crisis. I wasn't stretching my paycheck, skipping meals, or calculating sacrifices. I was breathing. Then one afternoon, Carter showed up. He stood at the cottage door. Anger and confusion etched into his face. "Mom, what are you doing here?" he demanded. "I live here," I said simply. "You just left us at the restaurant. Do you know what that did to us?" His voice rose, filled with entitlement. I looked at him calmly. "Do you know what years of using me did to me?" He froze. He wasn't expecting that. He wasn't expecting resistance. "Mom," he tried again, softening his tone. "You always help. You've always been there. Why now? Why stop?" I stepped closer. "Because I'm not your wallet, not your safety net, not invisible anymore. I am your mother, Carter, not your bank." His mouth opened, but no words came out. For once, he had nothing to say. Rachel didn't come. Maybe she knew better, or maybe she was too proud. Either way, I didn't miss her absence. Carter left that day, angry, hurt, confused, but I didn't chase him. I didn't explain further, because he needed to sit with it. He needed to understand that love is not entitlement. Weeks later, I received a letter from the literacy program I had added to my will. They thanked me for my pledge, for believing in their mission. Their words filled me with something Carter's gratitude never had, because it was real, was acknowledgement. And slowly, I realized I hadn't lost a son that night. I had found myself. That night in the restaurant was the last time I allowed myself to be invisible. Carter and Rachel may never understand, but that's no longer my burden. My story is not about them anymore. It's about me. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever been taken for granted, I want you to remember this. You have the right to say no. You have the right to walk away. You have the right to reclaim your life. Because family isn't just blood. Family is who sees you, values you, and respects you. And if they don't, then you owe it to yourself to see your own worth. So ask yourself this: whose table are you still sitting at, hoping for a seat, when you deserve a place of your own?